May consume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this harmful bill, H.R. 5, the so-called Protecting Access to Healthcare Act. Now, this bill is premised upon what I would call a story, because that's what my mama used to tell me. My mama and my grandmama, as I was growing up, used to say, you know, that's wrong to say that someone is lying. Don't say that. You say that they're telling a story. And so I grew up plagued with the guilt that comes from calling somebody a liar. And I still have that. Sense of shame, and so associated with that word liar. And I'm not here to accuse anybody of lying, but I will say that H.R. 5, the so-called Protecting Access to Healthcare Act, is a story. It's premised on the story that runaway frivolous lawsuits, medical malpractice lawsuits, are a major cause of driving the cost of medical care through the roof. And that's not true. This bill restricts a patient's ability to recover compensation for damages caused by medical negligence, defective products, and irresponsible insurance companies. It also sets a cap of $250,000 for non-economic compensatory damages, which are awarded to victims for emotional pain and suffering, physical impairment, and disfigurement. And I'm so sorry to have not had this photograph blown up. It's a photo of Carolyn Palmer of Marietta, Georgia. Ms. Palmer was in an automobile accident back on March 23rd of 2007. She sustained 2 broken legs, a broken shoulder, abrasions on her arms, and a collapsed lung. While she was at the hospital recuperating, they noticed that her left hand was swollen, dusky blue, and cool to the touch. But after so noting on her medical record, the doctor left work that day, and no further action was taken about that. That was a clear sign that blood was not flowing to that limb, and that something was wrong. Nothing was done, no follow-up. The next day, they found that the IV line had been misplaced in her arm, and they referred her in for some treatments to try to reinvigorate the circulation in that arm. And there was nothing they could do. They tried everything. They even subjected Caroline to a procedure on both arms to relieve the pressure and treat the loss of circulation by putting a large gaping hole in both arms. And that procedure failed, whereupon she then was subjected to the cutting off of her left arm and the cutting off of her right arm. Now, we've talked a lot about, well, how much is a leg worth? How much is a leg worth when you lose a leg? Well, how much are 2 legs worth? How much are 2 arms worth? This picture shows Carolyn Palmer in this horrendous state. And under this amendment, under this bill, H.R. 5, this woman, this victim, would be limited to $250,000 for her pain and suffering and disfigurement. And that's not right. How do you put a cap on someone's pain and suffering? How heartless is it to cap non-economic damages when one has lost a limb, becomes blind? How much is vision worth? How much is the ability to see? How much is that worth? $250,000 under this legislation. If you become paralyzed at the hands of a negligent health care provider, can no longer walk, how much is that worth? $250,000. These caps hurt the most vulnerable among us, children, senior citizens, and working poor. They can't even recover for economic losses, such as lost wages. They may not be working. A child doesn't work. A child left with no arms is limited in non-economic damages to $250,000 for the rest. That's going to handle him. He's got to roll with that for the rest of his life. $250,000. It's not right. Medical malpractice is about real people with real injuries. The Institute of Medicine estimates that 98,000 people die each year in the United States from preventable medical errors. Tort reform proposals such as H.R. 5 fail to address the deaths and injuries associated with preventable medical errors every year. Now, this H.R. 5 is an unholy alliance between two stories. The one story which I just outlined to you, and the other story being the repeal of the 15-person Independent Payment Advisory Board, also known as IPAB, which was created under Romneycare. Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act. Now, while I do believe that there are some good reasons to be opposed to the IPAB and to vote to abolish it, I believe there's some good reasons for that, but rationing of medical care is not one of them. Anyone who says that this IPAB board has the power to cut the benefits paid to Medicare recipients has either not read the bill or is telling you a story. Now, just for the record, I want to read 42 U.S.C. Section G 1395 KKK. And I'm not going to comment on the KKK right now, but that's the subsection of 42 U.S.C. Where the law that was passed, Affordable Health Care Act, is stated, the law, 42 U.S.C., and it says the proposal shall not include any recommendation